We've come a long way since the days of the original Super Mario Bros. Movie, with video game adaptations being hundreds of times better than they used to. While we could talk about video game adaptations all day, two recent Netflix shows have shown us exactly what video game shows can be when they're handled by the right people. Sonic Prime, a Netflix animated show that was made in tandem with SEGA themselves, and the Cuphead Show, a wacky cartoon created with input from the original creators. While a lot about these shows are different, these two adaptations are things we love to talk about, so let's talk about them. I'm Kyle with Wicked Binge, and this is Sonic Prime vs. the Cuphead Show. And before we begin, let me first issue a quick spoiler warning. The first category we have to discuss when comparing Sonic Prime and the Cuphead Show is the main characters. The main characters we'll be discussing are the titular Sonic the Hedgehog from Sonic Prime and Cuphead and Mugman from the Cuphead Show. Starting with Sonic, he is exactly what we expect from this character by now. He is a cocky, fun-loving, and generally mischievous hedgehog who uses his speed to both figuratively and literally run circles around his enemies. Sonic actually becomes quite the well-rounded protagonist by the end of the first season, as his hot-headed tendencies start to fade away once he realizes the severity of the situation. Sonic, as always, is very fun to watch, and while we have to watch him grow as a person for the 10,000th time, it is still a lot of fun to see. On the other hand, we have Cuphead and Mugman, two supposedly younger boys who grew up on Inkwell Isle. These two are polar opposites, with Cuphead being the hot-headed hero who jumps into things without thinking, and Mugman being the cautious scaredy cat.
Someone's got a beta voice of reason!
While these two are fun to watch, they stay sort of stagnant, with the most character growth happening in only a handful of episodes. Sometimes you have episodes where one is so out of character that it makes you hate them, and that goes to show that consistency definitely matters. When all is said and done, these characters are vastly different and tough to compare. With that said, we think it becomes obvious that Sonic Prime has the better main character. Moving on, let's talk about the side cast. While the main character is the most important character to discuss, a show obviously wouldn't be complete without side characters for the hero to bounce off. We'll be talking about non-villains for this spot, and we'll be starting with the Cuphead Show. Most of the show centers on the two main characters we discussed, but there are a few side characters that make their presence really known. Starting off with the Elder Kettle, who is the one who seems to have raised Cuphead and Mugman, and despite having a small part in the game, is a pretty major part of the show. However, he's not the only one on their side, because Miss Chalice serves as another major character. She's a fun-loving menace who loves to scam people and joyride. She's by far the best side character because every episode she's in is 10 times better. She also causes the boys to look inward and discover more about themselves, as she serves as a sort of foil for Mugman. However, on the Sonic side, you have plenty of unique characters to dissect. Because of how large the show is, you have everyone ranging from Tails 9 to Hangry Big. However, we'll be mostly dissecting Tails 9, Rebel Rouge, and Renegade Nux, as they're the most important side characters in the show. Rebel Rouge is a character with an interesting plot, and makes herself a major player that is both helpful to Sonic while still being interested in her own goals. Renegade Nux is another interesting character because he proves to be more than just a meathead, while also being an interesting enforcer for the rebellion. But the best side character is 9, who is so distinctly different from Tails and proves to be a good foil to Sonic because of it. 9 may be the most interesting side character because of how unique he is, and this makes him fun to watch. But we believe that the Cuphead Show has the better overall side cast, even if it is less diverse. We're not done talking about the cast just yet, because up next we have villains. No matter what flavor of antagonist a series has, it's always important to have at least one, and we're lucky enough that both of these shows have interesting main villains. Sonic Prime features the Chaos Council and Rusty Rose as the main antagonists, and they prove to be great villains for the most part. Rusty is a mechanical menace who is the exact opposite of Sonic, because not only does she not joke, but she's a stoic individual who proves to be a good rival for Sonic, at least in most situations. But the Chaos Council shine as beacons of interesting villains, as there are 5 unique versions of Dr. Eggman. Sure, some of them are less important and less interesting than others, but Dr. Deep and Mr. Dr. Eggman especially are interesting characters that provide a lot of interesting things to discover about the multiverse. On the other hand, hand, we have the devil himself as the main antagonist of the Cuphead show. And the easiest thing to say about him is he's just so much fun to watch. He takes up all of the screen time he has and just eats it up, as his stage presence is just obvious. When he pops up, you know it's gonna be a good time. From his songs, to his jokes, to everything else in between. Most of the best episodes include him. Even in the newest season, he's still really entertaining, and he's used just sparingly enough not to be overdone. We also have King Dice as another villain, being the devil's underling. King Dice only appears briefly, as within the first 2 seasons he only appeared twice. Dice's screen presence is amazing, and it's sad that he is underutilized. So it's quite obvious that we believe that the Cuphead show has the much better villains in our eyes. The next section is the comedy. Both shows exude a comedic angle to them, with the Cuphead show just rolling in it. The Cuphead show is a comedy series, and as such focuses much more on the comedic aspect, as it does everything from slapstick to puns.
I wanna go home. I'm too soft for prison.
Because of its frantic kid show energy, the Cuphead show proves to be continuously hilarious. Whether it be because it's denying your expectations or because it just comes out of nowhere, the comedy will leave you rolling on the floor laughing. In fact, several parts of the show ended up trending on social media just because of the humor, and that shows the kind of comedy we're talking about. On the other hand, we have Sonic Prime, which is still quite the funny show despite not being as frantic as the Cuphead show. Most of Sonic Prime's comedy comes from funny situations and jokes that focus on wordplay or punnery.
Not helping, Amy. You know I don't do well on tests.
Sonic Prime's main draw is balancing humor with plot in such a way that the funny situations don't feel out of place. Most of the jokes in Sonic Prime leave us chuckling and very few miss. But there's no denying that the Cuphead show is the funnier of the two. The next thing we're going to talk about is the music. Both of these shows utilize music to their advantage, with Sonic Prime using music to set the tone with relative ease. In fact, a lot of music similar to classic Sonic tunes can be heard in the background of Sonic Prime all throughout. While these tone setters are definitely nice, the lack of an actual theme song or musical number is worth noting, especially since the Cuphead show has so many good songs throughout, from the Devil song in the very first episode to Miss Chalice's number at the end of season 1. In fact, most episodes not only use background music to its advantage, but the aforementioned music numbers that not only explore characters, also bring forth interesting developments in the story. So again, without question, the Cuphead show is the winner in this category. Another important thing we have to discuss is the setting. The Cuphead show has the iconic Inkwell Isle, which has plenty of fun and unique locations that they explore, from the forest where they make their home to the cemetery to the Inkwell Isle City, where they meet Chalice. Not to mention Inkwell Hell, where the devil comes from. Everywhere they go is interesting to look at and full of life and energy. The setting also incorporates the time the show takes place in, and for this show, it's a faux 1920s aesthetic that really draws you in. From the use of radio instead of TVs, and old-fashioned cars, this setting is an interesting snapshot to place a show. On the other hand, we have Sonic Prime, which is distinctly more varied in its setting, from the iconic Green Hill Zone to the new and interesting New York City. Starting off the show with green pastures and large mountains, it gives off good vibes and fun times. Then you transport to the dreary New York City, which is dull and gray and gives off the vibes of a dictator leadership. But even past that, you also see the dry and jungle-filled primal world, which is distinct and different, even feeling claustrophobic at times. Or you have the massively open sea of the pirate world. No matter which universe Sonic is in, it feels distinct and unique, and makes the show feel much more alive. So because of this, we have to say that Sonic Prime has the better setting. A similar category, next up we have to talk about the animation. Animation is a medium that can be handled in plenty of ways, and it lends itself to crazy, fun things because of it. Sonic Prime is a 3D animated show with the official models from SEGA themselves. Because of its 3D status, it's capable of unique movements and interesting visuals, especially considering the models are official SEGA ones. The Cuphead show, on the other hand, is traditionally animated in a 2D style, but it borrows heavily from the game and its inspirations, with rubber hose cartoons being drawn from heavily. With its frantic action and intense energy, the Cuphead show uses the animated medium to its advantage, and while it never hits the levels of fourth wall breaking and animation bending of shows like Animaniacs or The Amazing World of Gumball, Its animation is something to behold no matter how you slice it, and for this reason we'll say that the Cuphead Show has the edge in our animation category, because it's far more unique to Sonic Prime. Now, a show isn't complete without a story, so up next is plot. The Cuphead Show focuses on Cuphead and Mugman going around and being general nuisances around town. This leads to them being put on all kinds of wacky adventures with crazy characters like Miss Chalice, King Dice, and Bullboy. However, there's not really a strong overarching plot. At the same time, Sonic Prime uses a full plot that, while not completely original, is unique and fun for the Sonic universe. Sonic Prime focuses on the multiverse and uses that idea to its advantage, and being so serialized allows it to be much more interesting over a longer period of time. The only issue right now is that Sonic Prime is still in its first season, so it's hard to judge. But that doesn't stop it from taking the win, because we think Sonic Prime has the better plot. The final category we have to talk about is the element of adaptation. Both shows adapt plenty of things from their source materials. Firstly, in Sonic Prime, thanks to being considered canon, a lot of the stuff adapted is obvious. Things like Green Hill Zone, the Chaos Emeralds, and the characters of Cubot and Orbot are adaptations from the games that are done quite well. In fact, a lot of the stuff we see in the show is actually really accurate to the games. The only thing that doesn't really align with its original version is Rouge's outfit, which the Sonic fandom on the internet has strong opinions on, unsurprisingly. For the Cuphead Show, they adapt a lot of characters and ideas, but change them up drastically to fit the flow of the show. Things like the lack of the Devil's Casino, changes to characters like Chalice, Ribby Croaks, and Baroness von Bonbon are obvious to fans of the game. Sure, they are often changed for the better, but when it comes to adapting the game, this often comes to the dismay of fans of the original. Sure, a lot of things in the Cuphead Show are great, but Sonic Prime is a better adaptation, just barely. And with all the categories wrapped up, let's wrap things up with our conclusion. Both of these shows are great, and while they're catered towards kids, they're very different shows. When it comes down to it, we've found that video game adaptations have come a long way, and we think both of these shows show us that Netflix handles video game licenses really well, and that's not even tackling other adaptations that have come out recently. However, when it comes down to it, after dissecting both shows in this style, we personally believe that the Cuphead Show is better. But even with that declaration made, Sonic Prime has only had one season, so we look forward to see how much it improves throughout its run. But let us know in the comments section what you think. Did you like Sonic Prime or the Cuphead Show better? Make sure to hit that notification bell and binge more of our Cuphead Show and Sonic Prime videos. But most importantly, stay wicked.